Mansukhani from Kolkata. I am a teacher of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. In these series of discussions on Patanjali Yoga Sutras, today we will be covering how to attain Sampragyata Samadhi and Asampragyata Samadhi. As you all know, yoga, as defined by Patanjali, is all about Chitta Vritti Nirodha, that is silencing the fluctuations of the mind. And one of the methods he has given to achieve that is through concentration. And concentration of the mind leads to meditation and eventually samadhi. So dear friends, yesterday we had an initial look at two kinds of samadhi. The first one is Sampragyata Samadhi and the second one is Asampragyata Samadhi. Today we will be discussing also on how to achieve these two samadhis. What is the methodology to achieve these two samadhis? Dear friends, it is very simple. The methodology is that you sit in any comfortable position in which you can hold your body comfortably and your body remains steady. So during the period of concentration, your body must stay comfortable and your body must be steady. So that is the first basic requirement. Now to achieve this, you can be seated in any position you desire. It could be on the floor, it could be on a sofa, it could be on a chair, it could be on a mat, it could be on the bed. So that is the first requirement, that is to sit. Sit comfortably and in a steady pose. Some people do practice concentration by lying down. It may work for them, but normally it is not advised that you start your practice of meditation by doing it lying down, because then there is a high tendency that you may go to sleep. So in order to avoid that, Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras has suggested an asana which is in a sitting position. It does not mean a posture where you are standing, does not mean a posture where you are doing some kind of gymnastics. It is simply a sitting posture. And once you are in this posture, the other thing to be done is completely relax the mind. Bring it to such a state of relaxation that you feel calmness and stillness as much as possible. In order to help you further, all that you need to do, if possible, is close your eyes and do choose a room which is preferably silent with not much of a disturbance. And then you are in the ideal condition to begin your concentration for samadhi. The first samadhi which can be attained is the Sampragyata Samadhi. In Sampragyata Samadhi, when you begin, you are advised to look at some object. This object becomes the support. It is called the alambana for concentration. When you are looking at an object, at a support, a mental support, then the meditation around that object can become easy and deep. So you need to preferably have an object of meditation. Now when you have an object of meditation, naturally your attention is on the object, and the object is physical. The object is in the world outside, and this object is an object of the Pancha Mahabhutas, or made up of the 5 gross elements. Elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So any object, any material object is made up of a combination of these 5 gross elements. So when you begin your attention, you will find your mind is having some kind of a physical awareness. This physical awareness is the first state of meditation. In this first state of meditation, you will also be aware of your body, because your body also is physical in nature, and it is also made up of the five gross elements. So the initial awareness is on the physical dimension, is on the physical domain. And dear friends, as you proceed further, as you practice further, meditation is subject to practice. The term used in Sanskrit is abhyas. The more you practice, the better it is. So as you practice further, you will find that your awareness now has shifted from the object, shifted from the body. That is, it has shifted from the physical dimension. It has moved slightly deeper inside you. It has moved into the mental dimension. Yes, the object which we are looking at is perceived through the senses, through the power of senses, through the sense organs. And the input coming from these sense organs go to the mind. So the next awareness which we receive, which we have, which we become aware about is mental awareness. So this is the second stage of Sampragyata Samadhi. Now what happens, friends? You will notice something very interesting as you go deeper and deeper into this meditation. You will find the presence of the mind will keep on reducing, right from the first stage to the last stage. So actually there are four stages. So first stage has the maximum presence of the mind. The second stage lesser than that, the third stage further lower, and the fourth stage the bare minimum. So let us look at the third stage. The first stage we saw is physical awareness. The second stage we saw is mental awareness. Now in the third stage of Sampragyata Samadhi is a feeling of calmness, a feeling of silence, a feeling of bliss, a feeling of ananda. This ananda, this feeling of bliss is an advanced state of meditation. And many practitioners start reaching this state after some abhyasa, some amount of dedicated practice. Here, when you are in the Ananda state, what has actually happened is you have moved further deeper inside. You have moved from the mind to the intellect called the buddhi. Now the buddhi, the intellect, is a domain where you have certain qualities like intellect, willpower, power of discrimination. And it is here that this is the purest form of mind. So in this purest form of mind, what you are experiencing is delight, is ananda, is bliss, is happiness. So this is the third state of awareness in Sampragyata Samadhi. And on further practice, dear friends, you move on to the next stage. This stage is the awareness of I amness, where you become aware of your own self. This I amness is the highest state of awareness in Sampragyata Samadhi. And as I told you, as we move in from the first to the fourth level of awareness in Sampragyata Samadhi, we find that the presence of mind keeps on diminishing, keeps on reducing. So it is the lowest in the fourth stage, in the I am awareness state. Now, what exactly is this I am awareness state? We saw the first state was connected to the physical domain, the object domain. The second stage was connected to the mental domain, and the third stage was connected to the intellectual domain. So what is this fourth domain, which is even subtler than buddhi, than the intellect? This domain is the domain of the soul. This domain is domain of the Purusha. This domain is the domain of Atma. So my dear friends, when one goes deeper than the buddhi, when one goes towards the soul, trying to realize the soul, trying to realize the inner self, that is when one starts becoming aware of one's own self. The soul realization has still not happened, but you are in the intermediate stage, somewhere between the intellect and the soul. Now, the question some of you might ask is, what is the connection between the intellect and the soul? The soul, the Purusha, is independent of Prakriti. Prakriti is constituted of certain elements. So the first element is intellect or buddhi. At the cosmic level, it is called Mahat. So this intellect, this buddhi is what gives further, you can say, birth or creates the ego, the ahankara, and then the mind, and then the five senses of perception, and the five senses of action, and then this goes further to the five subtle energy elements and the five gross elements of matter. So all of them are part of Prakriti, but the soul, the Purusha, is not part of Prakriti. Soul is an independent, permanent entity, always being there, always existing, unchanging. And Prakriti also, in its unmanifest state, is permanent, is infinite, but it is constantly changing. So this constant change of Prakriti, of nature, is being observed by the soul, by the Purusha. That is a quality which the Purusha, the soul, has. And how does it watch it? It watches the entire Prakriti through the window of the buddhi, the intellect. And why does it watch through the window of the buddhi or the intellect? The reason, my dear friends, is very simple. Buddhi is quite like Purusha, the soul. Buddhi is the purest form of Prakriti. Buddhi is the first evolute from Prakriti. That is why the Purusha looks through Buddhi, through the window of Buddhi, into all the other elements of Prakriti which I mentioned to you. So it experiences this world through the Buddhi, through the intellect. Now let's look at this whole structure once again from another perspective. When we are looking at the Panch Mahabhutas, we are in the physical domain, as I pointed out earlier. But as you put your attention, as you concentrate, then you move from the gross to the subtle. So concentration has a quality. It moves the mind from the gross to a subtle state. Now these Panch Mahabhutas have come out of the Tanmatras, the subtle elements. So our attention comes to a subtle state of the Tanmatras. So this leads to the second state of awareness. And then as you come further down, you reach the state of Buddhi. Now the state of Buddhi is a state of the subtlest form of Prakriti, immediately after the unmanifest, the Mool Prakriti. So this is the state where we experience happiness, we experience joy, we experience bliss. But as the concentration is increased, as the mind is pulled back further and further, deeper and deeper into ourself, the mind moves into the territory, closer to the territory of the Purusha, closer to the territory of the soul, the Atma. Though it does not reach there, but it is close to it. It is in the intermediary region. It is near the boundary region between the intellect and the Purusha, though on the Prakriti side. And here it starts feeling the I amness. It starts feeling as if it is watching itself. It gets the feeling that it is seeing its own self in the state of meditation, concentrating. So these are the four states of Sampragyata Samadhi. But my dear friends, as you realized, we have moved in this only in the domain of the mind. We have moved, the objects outside are seen from the mind. Then we had the mind realization. Then we had the intellect realization. And then we were in the domain between the intellect and the Purusha, but still on the Prakriti side, still on the Chitta side. Now the question you might ask is, what is Chitta? Chitta is a yogic term which means the combination of intellect, ego, and the mind put together. Chitta is the storehouse of all information, all memory, and it is Chitta which decides our next life and our karma. Now, dear friends, here with Sampragyata Samadhi, attention with concentration remains in the mind domain, remains in the Chitta domain, remains in the intellect domain. So this is the first kind of Samadhi which we discussed. The second Samadhi, when you move further, when you are practicing faith, what does faith mean? Faith means that you have complete clarity of the mind. Once you have clarity of the mind, then you realize that any type of enterprise requires faith, requires quality of astha. Astha means faith, so that it leads to the attainment of the goal. Goals can only come when you can see things clearly. You are able to see the goal clearly, you are able to see the path clearly, then only the goals can come. And it is only then that you can start trusting both the goal and the path in totality. One of my gurus, Aparesh Acharya, used to say that all of us begin in life with conditioned beliefs. These beliefs are put in us by other people, and then we treat them to be true. But as you do ethical, intellectual scrutiny of all the information that comes to you, all the beliefs which you have taken inside your mind and conditioned it with it, then you come to a next state which is called unconditioned beliefs. Now these unconditioned beliefs, once tested, lead us to conviction, and conviction in our beliefs leads us to faith, and faith by itself can take us to an access to unlimited power. So in order to move further from the Sampragyata Samadhi to the Asampragyata Samadhi, unlimited power, high power is needed. So here faith is the first step which one needs to take care of. And Patanjali, in a progression, is explaining the various qualities or various elements needed by a yogi to move forward to Asampragyata Samadhi. So the first is faith, which I just briefed you. The second is vigor. The third is memory. The fourth is Samadhi absorption. And the fifth is discernment. Now let us look slightly more at each one of them. So when you have belief and your belief has turned into faith, and your faith is like a benevolent mother, then it supports the yogi till the very end. And deep faith, as I told you, gives rise to unlimited power, energy. So the second requirement which Patanjali says is needed is vigor, also called virya. And virya is energetic endeavor. which comes uh, automatically with faith. But if you go further into the sutras, it has been suggested by following brahmacharya as one of the virtues of life, a yogi is able to develop the quality of conserving his energy. And when he is able to conserve his energy, he is also able to give it a direction. And that direction can be for moving closer to the Purusha, closer to the soul, closer to the goal of self-realization. So, my dear friends, Virya is an important aspect and it has been covered in Ashtanga Yoga. So, if you go into the eight-limbed yoga, the sadhana which has been suggested by Maharishi Patanjali, you will find Ashtanga Yoga has been designed, the eight-limbed yoga has been designed in such a way that by practicing it in a proper suggested manner, one reaches the Sampragyata Samadhi first, and then one reaches the Asampragyata Samadhi. So this is one of the methods, the suggested methods by Maharishi Patanjali of Ashtanga Yoga. And dear friends, the third quality which is needed for a yogi to move further into the journey inside the mind, deeper and deeper inside the mind, probably where he has never gone before, that is Smriti. Smriti means an undisturbed mind. Vyasa, one of the commentators, describes Smriti as an undisturbed mind. So you have memory. You have memory, you know the path to be taken, you know the method to be adopted, you know the discipline to be followed. All is stored there clearly in the mind. And the mind is not getting disturbed by other inputs. So that is a must. And going further, we find Vakaspati Mishra, one of the other prominent commentators, say it helps if you are keeping the goal in mind. So Smriti helps in keeping the goal in mind. Smriti helps in keeping the mind fixated on one object, on one goal, on one target for a yogi. And Shankaracharya interestingly says Smriti also means to have scriptural knowledge. So once you have scriptural knowledge, once you have knowledge of the Atma, of the Purusha, of the soul, then that knowledge is so deeply entrenched, so deeply memorized, along with certain other supporting facts, that when you are traveling alone in the recesses of your mind, deep, deep down there, all alone, then these memories help you, guide you, show you the way. They become the beacon of light and they take you towards the goal. Moving further. Now, when you are on the path, completely focused, fully concentrated, then automatically the state of Samadhi happens. The state of total absorption happens. And when the total absorption happens, then an interesting facet opens up for the yogi. This interesting facet is called pragya or discernment. Pragya is the ability to see what others are unable to see. You can discern out knowledge which others are unable to discern out. So this kind of knowledge is higher knowledge. This knowledge is higher than the knowledge which comes into us through our five sense organs, which is the sensory knowledge. Sensory knowledge, dear friends, is always limited because our sense organs have operational limitations. But when it comes to pragya, there are no such limitations. Pragya is also known as intuition. Pragya is also known as insight. Pragya is also known as sixth sense. Some people say pragya starts when the third eye opens up. Pragya starts when the pineal gland opens up. And when does the pineal gland open up? When you reach higher levels of concentration. You have already crossed the first state of awareness, the second state of awareness, the third state of awareness, and the fourth state of awareness of the Sampragyata Samadhi. But however, the mind was still there. So slowly and steadily you're removing the mind from the picture. And it is actually killing the mind. It is decimating the mind. And this is done through the process which I outlined to you while you move from Sampragyata Samadhi to Asampragyata Samadhi. So you use faith, you use vigor, you use memory, samadhi, and discernment, pragya, to enter deep inside into your own self, such that now the conscious mind is no longer there. There is no conscious presence of the mind. So what is present in such a state? In such a state, they say, the yogi, since he has no conscious mind, he forgets his name. He forgets the name of the object he was focusing on. He forgets the knowledge of the object which he previously had. He forgets the time and the space domain he was in. So there is no recording of anything which can be said to be in the mind. So the mind has completely disappeared. And this is a higher state. This is the state of Asampragyata Samadhi. Now, dear friends, there are terms used for both these samadhis, Sampragyata Samadhi and Asampragyata Samadhi. Sampragyata Samadhi is also called Sabij Samadhi. And Asampragyata Samadhi is called, dear friends, Nirbij Samadhi. So what is the bij out here? Bij is the seed. What is the seed we are talking about? Sabij means with the seed. Nirbij means without the seed. So these are two samadhis. One samadhi has no seed and the other samadhi has a seed. Now the seed are active sanskaras. Sanskaras present in us lead to life moving on. They, in the right time, in the right place, in the right birth, they become our karmas, they become our actions, and they go out into the physical world and impact the world. So in the first samadhi, Sampragyata Samadhi, the mind, as I told you, is present. Because the mind is present, it allows these sanskaras to be memorized. Memory is present. So sanskaras stay there. And with time, they do turn into karma. They do turn into action. And they may take the yogi either higher towards self-realization, or they may take the yogi lower into a lower state of self-realization. But in Nirbij Samadhi, in Asampragyata Samadhi, there are no active sanskaras. All the active sanskaras have been cleaned up. In such a state, the mind is not present because there are no thoughts, there are no ideas, there are no vrittis, there are no sanskaras, there are no memories which are active. What are left are only hidden sanskaras, latent sanskaras, sanskaras which are not active today but may become active on some another date, in some another presence of a catalyst. So in Asampragyata Samadhi, the seeds are hidden and latent. They are not active. But even then, they are still there. So dear friends, let us go a bit further. Sampragyata Samadhi can easily happen. Sampragyata Samadhi is the first kind of samadhi where the mind is present. It can easily happen for those people, those practitioners, those yogis who are applying themselves intensely, who are committed. It is only with commitment, long-term commitment, that samadhi can be attained. It is only with long-term commitment, with uninterrupted practice, with the application of devotion for long durations of time. As Patanjali says, this is a prerequisite for yoga, for samadhi, for concentration at the higher levels to happen. This intensity can vary. Some people can start with low intensity, some can have medium intensity, and some can have high intensity. So depending on the intensity one can put in, it makes the job easier and even faster. As one of the commentators say, it is like a race. The one who runs the fastest reaches the goal the earliest. So that is the way. But each yogi keeps on moving on his path, up or down, depending on the sanskaras acting and depending on the effort which he is putting in, depending on the karma which he is intentionally generating. So yoga requires long-term commitment, yoga requires practice without interruption, yoga requires devotion, and yoga is only for the truly committed. Patanjali says that it has been explained that there can be three kinds of intensities to provide enthusiasm to those yogis whose intensity might go up and down with time. Sometimes they are very active in their sadhana, sometimes they slow down. So this is to tell them, point out to them that this is normal. Do not worry. Keep up the practice and you will find that you will be on the path to yoga. And they say, like everything in life, there are gradations to the goal of yoga, to the attainment of yoga. Now, as we have seen that there are three kinds of intensities, which broadly the commentators have agreed upon. But there is an interesting observation coming from one of the commentators. He is Mr. Chappell. Chappell has said that for those people who were yogis in their earlier life and are today present without a body, so if they do not have a body, but they are present, that means the subtle elements are present. They are present in the mental state. They are present in the inner world of the mind. So he says those yogis who are present in the inner world have become free from the outer, now become free from the body, but their attention, their concentration, their focus is on the inner world. So when they do samadhi, it is easy for them to reach into the higher states of the sampragyata samadhi. Then they easily move up this chain and they go towards the purusha, the soul, the atma, and reach higher states of samadhi where I amness is present. There is another class of yogis which are called Prakriti Yogis. They also are without bodies and they have got integrated with Prakriti in its various forms. It could be the Mool Prakriti, the primordial state. It could be the Buddhi. It could be the Ahankar. It could be the Tanmatras. So these Prakriti Laya yogis, they also, if they start concentrating their mind, they achieve sampragyata samadhi the easy way because their earlier work has already been done. Whereas, if you are practicing sampragyata samadhi fresh, if you are in a body, if you are then starting the practice of sampragyata samadhi, then you have to first of all overcome the body awareness, the physical awareness, which can be very gross. It can pull you back. Therefore, medium intensity is required by the practitioner in this case. And then he slowly, with medium intensity, moves from physical awareness to mental awareness to intellectual awareness, that is the state of bliss, and further to the fourth state of awareness, where it is I amness, where he feels that he is looking at himself during the meditation. But to move further up from to asampragyata samadhi, you have to cross over a region where you have to decimate the mind, you have to remove the mind, you have to kill the mind. Now, this is a domain which requires special preparation. This is a domain which requires intense sadhana for this crossover to take place from the mind to beyond the mind. So this crossover requires, as I told you, dear friends, 5 essential qualities in a yogi. One is faith. Faith is to have absolute clarity about the goal, absolute clarity in the mind. So then one is able to see the goal clearly, one is able to see the path clearly, one develops a trust, and then he is able to move quickly and easily. So first thing, primary thing which is required is faith. Second, tremendous amount of energy is required to cross over the orbit of the mind and go into the no mind area, no mind domain inside you. So there, vigor is what is required, and this, it is suggested, can come if you practice brahmacharya, if you conserve all your energies and use those energies single-pointedly in one direction for the purpose of self-realization. Then you find that virya gives you access to tremendous power. It could even be divine power, so that you can break through the barriers of the mind and reach the no mind domain. But to cross over while you have that tremendous energy, you must also remember the path, you must also remember the goal, and you must be guided by those memories. Because if you do not have those memories, then it may become difficult. You may lose concentration on the path. You may forget the path. You may not be able to focus on the goal, and the entire effort would have gone waste. Therefore, memory, smriti, is a major requirement now after virya. And once you are into this, samadhi happens. Samadhi happens automatically. Now you are in the asampragyata samadhi stage. Your conscious mind has been broken away. You are free from all barriers of the conscious mind. And it is when you are free from all the barriers of the conscious mind is the instrument which processes the data which is coming in from the 5 sense organs. Now when the conscious mind is no longer there, it is no longer interfering, it is no longer disturbing the operation at the subtler level, then a new channel of sensing knowledge, a new channel of communication of knowledge opens up. This new channel of communication which opens up with the divine, with the creation beyond the universe, beyond Prakriti, beyond the dimensions of space and time, is called pragya, is called intuition, is called insight, is called sixth sense. Here the third eye opens up, here the pineal gland opens up, and you have access to information which nobody else has. This is mystic knowledge, and mystic knowledge, supernatural knowledge, leads to supernatural powers. Now the siddhis are operational at a very, very high level in a yogi. So my dear friends, what these two samadhis are, the nirbij samadhi and the sabij samadhi, the asampragyata samadhi and the sampragyata samadhi, and the various stages which are involved there, and how can we move on this path. I'm sure with this knowledge You will have tremendous insight into Samadhi as explained by Maharshi Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. And Samadhi, the practice of Samadhi, the practice of independence of the mind, will lead to tremendous happiness, will lead to bliss, because mind is the cause of all sorrow. And now, when you are free of the mind, when you're free from sorrow, you automatically become free from all pain and suffering. And this is the goal of human life. So you have reached that goal now. And you can bring this permanent happiness to your family members, to members of your society, to people of your country, and to people of this world at large. I thank you immensely